looks like we're good to go. So, firstly, let me thank everyone for joining us on the LinkedIn Live today. We'll be discussing post-pandemic TD SYNNEX, both the offices and the building we're now in, but also as it relates to kind of how we've tried to address people's needs within the building, etc. So I'm delighted to be joined today by Jodie Carroll, who's our HR director for TD SYNNEX, and we're going to be talking about the transformation and how we've tried to consider people at the centre of that. So thanks for joining us today, Jodie.
Absolute pleasure.
So talk us through the TD SYNNEX journey post-pandemic. How have things changed?
Changed quite significantly, as I'm sure it has for many organisations. So pre-pandemic, TD SYNNEX was absolutely 9 till 5:30 in the office company. And the same as every other company, the day we got that news that said everybody's got to go home, we kind of made this big exit. Technology was absolutely key to enable us to carry on working from home. But we're keen to get back into the office. Yeah. So any opportunity that kind of came up as to when they released some of the guidelines, we were like, right, let's get people back. So we started with 1 day in the office, transitioned to 2 as soon as we could. And in terms of communications, we were always planning to get to 3 days per week. And that's what we had been messaging. However, over the last kind of 6 to 9 months, those discussions continued as to what the right thing was to do. And currently we have landed on 40% of our co-workers' time needs to be in the office. And I think the other dynamic that is important, because I was talking about days before, we've gone from days to percentage, and that's about giving people more flexibility and for them to feel empowered as to when they come into the office. So I think that's really important. And it's because people want purpose to come into the office. So when you're saying it has to be 2 days every week as opposed to 40% in a month, people feel that they may be required to come into the office without a real purpose, whether they've got meetings or to collaborate with people. So it is aimed to give them a little bit more flexibility. But so far, so good, gone really well.
Yeah, I mean, everyone seems to respond really well to it, so fantastic. Is there, obviously, beginning of this year, we moved offices, so certainly in Basingstoke now, we're in our lovely new office today, recording this live. What sort of prompted us to make the changes at the time we did, sort of early on this year?
Yeah. So I think many people maybe think that is to do with the changes in working and the fact that we've moved to hybrid working. But actually there was one key big lease event that had come up, which gave us the opportunity to really rethink our offices. So it was kind of perfectly timed with regards to the changes in working practice as well. So yes, we have moved into a new office and we've refurbished our Bracknell office as well. And that really allowed us to think, okay, these people are coming back into the office. What does that work look like? What is the purpose of the office? And how do we update our offices? You know, the world has moved on with regards to things like diversity and really tailoring spaces to people with different needs. And lots of people are working from home the 60% of the time. So the 40% of the time, how do we get people to collaborate, provide them with the spaces? And we're competing with people's homes. That's one thing that I always kind of kept in my mind when we were designing the new offices, is we've got to draw people back into the office. Yeah. Yes, we've created a policy and people know that they need to come in, but I want them to come in because they want to be here, not because they've been told to be here. So you're competing with their homes, so it's got to be a space that they're proud of, that they come in, they feel comfortable. Lot more kind of casual seating spaces to relax and build relationships. So really good opportunity to update things.
And so, I mean, I can resonate with all of that for sure. But when you were thinking about the kind of the priorities for the spaces and the kind of how you give people the opportunity to do things differently, what sort of things were you considering as priorities?
So I think one was around how do we get the teams together correctly? So actually our office in Basingstoke, we used to be on 3 floors, we've gone to 2 floors. And part of that was, bigger floor spaces. We haven't reduced our space at all, but it enabled us to bring the teams who really need to work closely together, because you're not together as often. So when you are together, we want you in the same space. together. So, our top floor is now all sales and marketing, whereas before we were split, and our lower floor is predominantly the support function. So I think it kind of brings that collaboration piece in together. Well-being was absolutely key.
Yeah.
So what I think is quite simple things, but how do we really get sit-stand going in the offices, for example? In the old offices, it was primarily in directors' offices that you had the sit-stand desks. Actually, now we've got them available to everybody across the floor, which I think is great. For me personally, when looking at all of those kind of furniture elements of it, it's not about gimmicks. It's about real world things that are going to help and support people. And those desks, for example, are a key part of that. Other things that we've really built into the building are things around working mothers. So we've got nursing rooms, we've got prayer rooms, we've got quiet spaces for people who can't, do their best work in a noisy sales environment necessarily. So actually they can go to quiet spaces. And I think the other piece is around teamwork. So I mentioned the floors, but equally from a board perspective, we no longer have offices. None of our directors have offices. We have a collaborative space where we all sit down at the beginning of the day. And actually, the teamwork that has stemmed from that and the ability for us to have access to offices when we need them and the technology that's in those offices that we need, but if we're not in those spaces, that we're together working. And that's as much about role modeling that behavior for the rest of our business as well in terms of the time spent in the office.
Again, it's great to be able to have the access to, the board way more than we used to. I mean, that's really noticeable, I have to say. Within Maverick, we talk a lot about the importance of technology and driving and how spaces are utilised. Things like the importance of meeting equity. So whether you're in the room or whether you're at home, everyone feels, like they're fully engaged. When you were thinking about the kind of new offices and the structure of those offices, what were the kind of spaces and technology areas that you sort of deem the most important from your perspective?
So I think that piece around meeting equity is absolutely key. And I think one of the positives actually when we were all working at home, everybody had the kind of same experience. And what I personally saw, and probably personally myself, felt was that actually when you were on a Zoom call and everybody was in the same format, you saw people who might previously have been quite introvert and not necessarily have contributed so well in a face-to-face meeting, having that confidence.
Absolutely.
And when you transition back into the hybrid workspace, you don't want to lose that, but equally you've got to be able to cater for, with the flexibility that I was talking about around you can pick and choose in terms of your 40% of time. Some people are not going to be in the office at the same time as others because they may have different commitments and be in different spaces. So all of those meeting spaces need to be able to work for people who are virtual and people who are physically present at the same time. And that is where technology is absolutely key. In the past, sometimes you see people kind of everybody on their individual laptops or people having to stay sat at their desks because the technology in the room didn't work. So actually everybody goes back to the desk. And then you question, well, hang on a minute, what's the point in coming to the office? Yeah. So those spaces to provide that service and that experience, both internally and externally, because a lot of our meetings are done with partners, I think is absolutely key. And that is totally technology driven. And if I give another example, I would talk about town halls. So probably like many organizations, pre-pandemic, we would have done all floor talks, shouts, town halls, whatever it is that people call them, and got everybody into a space and had our managing director, for example, on the stage with a microphone. How do you still create that atmosphere when not everybody's going to be in the office? So again, we are really fortunate in our Basingstoke office to have a really large canteen as part of the space. And in there we have set about putting technology that allows us to have the physically present people in that town hall, but all of the kind of screens and cameras and video equipment that allows people who may well be working at home or on a partner site to absolutely feel part of that meeting. And that's far more inclusive. So that's really important. What else would I say? I would say the other challenge, and I can find this really frustrating myself, is when you are talking, particularly if you're working at home and you're talking to somebody in the office. Now, the office is noisy, you've got lots of background noise, but when you are talking to somebody and they haven't got the right headsets on and you can hear all the background noise, I personally, and I think many others do, find it really distracting because you just can't concentrate on the conversation that you're having. You just hear the background noise. So things like the headsets, having the right headsets with right noise cancelling. I'm no technology expert, but I think is really, really important. And the correct webcams, things like that, so that we can do all of that space as well. And then I would say in kind of the meeting spaces, how do you make that easy for people? How do you make it easy for people to share what they've got on their screens? Again, both in the office and externally. So what is that technology? And in our old offices, I would say probably not even half of our office spaces or meeting spaces had any form of technology in them. They were purposely designed for face-to-face, whereas every single room we've now got in this building and in our Bracknell offices has got the technology to allow people to share screens, do virtual meetings, which is such a change and has gone down so well because people aren't fighting for the offices with the technology in it. You know you can go into that space and you can do your job effectively, quickly and professionally.
Absolutely. And I think from kind of our perspective, one of the things, and again, looking at it from a Maverick perspective, we're a platform first sort of team. So we always talk about the importance of platforms like Microsoft Teams or Zoom or various others, and how easy it is to access those. And you're absolutely right. All of the rooms, when you go in them, simple one click, join meetings. The simplicity of that means that anyone can literally join a meeting, and actually the consistency of kind of the Logitech product, for example, in every meeting room, whether it's a huddle room all the way through to a kind of large boardroom, for example. They're all set up the same way, so everyone in the organisation can kind of use the tech and get familiar with the tech, I think, which is really quite important as well.
I think people like me, who I kind of alluded to before, not the most tech savvy. It's got to be easy. It's got to be simple. And the fact, like you say, that every room is the same. I know I've only got to learn one way of doing it, and I can rock up in any room and I can get it working. And if I can do that, then most other people can.
And go back to that platform thing. Whoever your partner is, we don't work in a world where everyone's on the same platform. So the fact that you can join it, irrespective of the platform of choice of your partner, makes a huge difference, I think, as well. So we love the kind of use of technology to emphasise different things around our organisation, and there's lots and lots and lots of examples of that. So I'll give you an example. The LED wall, for example, that we have in our reception area, it's a bit of a showpiece as well, but it's fantastic. It's huge, but it does give us a really good opportunity to promote some of the great things we're doing around the organisation. But was that like a consideration when you thought about things like that as well?
Absolutely, and I think the wall that you specifically are talking about there, it's in our main reception area. There's a definite wow factor to it, whether you are a co-worker within our business, whether you are an external partner visiting our business, or whether it is people who are coming for an interview in the hope of maybe working with us one day. There's that wow factor, but it allows us to put some key messaging on it. So whether that is around our values, whether it is about our BRGs, our business resource groups, so we've got 4 of those now covering a range of diverse populations. We can put all of that messaging on there and really celebrate success as well. Yeah. So you can't help but, be faced with it when you walk into reception. Gone are the days where we were putting kind of the paper posters on the wall. Everything is digital, and it allows our communications team to change messaging very, very quickly to keep it fresh. Because if you're seeing the same message every day, you just very much switch off. When you can change it regularly, that really helps with employee engagement as well.
Even simple things, actually, I noticed the ability to change the menus for the canteen, for example. It's just gone. It's and I really like that as a sort of bit of tech as well around the organisation. Do you think the use of the kind of AV technology around the building, LED screens, meeting rooms, has helped with kind of recruitment and retention of people within the organisation?
I would definitely say so. Can I specifically attribute it?
Yeah.
No, but many of us have been going through what's been called the Great Resignation, with people leaving organisations and trying to find the right place for them, particularly post-pandemic. Our attrition has come down, which is great news. And I think the feedback that we get on our engagement surveys is showing how much, how important that is to people in terms of the space that they work in. We equally employ a really young demographic in the main. And so people coming out of university, or even kind of our apprentices coming out of college, the technology that schools have got now, previously we weren't probably even replicating that technology. So you've got the new generations coming through, they've been brought up with technology. They rightly have an expectation that the place that they spend a lot of their time and are going to grow their careers is a technology, a great space for technology that they personally get to use themselves, not just to sell to others. So I think that's really key in terms of that demographic coming through. And I think with the consistency in the space, it makes it very inclusive. Inclusivity is a key value of ours. It's something where people want to work. They want to be able to come to work and be themselves. So I think that's kind of critically important as well. So do I think the space and the technology is having a positive impact? Absolutely. And I get that kind of from the feedback mainly from our staff and people who visit our offices.
And I think it's kind of really helped that we've got the kind of we're practicing what we preach, and not only are we practicing what we preach in terms of the meeting rooms, but the room we're in here. Obviously, the people watching us can't see it, but our tech centre in Basingstoke, we've got Microsoft hubs, we've got Neat boards, we've got all sorts of technology around the room where our co-workers can come in, experience technology, see what they're selling, and also just kind of really get the opportunity to collaborate. The collaboration devices from Lenovo, Crestron, EPOS, all in this room, make a really kind of great opportunity for our people to experience the tech, but also the values, as you've kind of referred to, that tech allows you to access, that inclusive collaboration. They're all kind of all really important, I think, and this is a great example of how that works. And actually, great opportunity for me to say, this room is available to anyone, whether it's internal or external, to come in and demo how to use the equipment, and also some of the features and benefits you've kind of highlighted, not just from a technology, but from a people perspective as well, which I think is really good. Whilst you said again before, it's difficult to relate exactly the staff retention to the changes we've made. Also think we've got some good news recently, which whilst we can't directly attribute to the technology, there might well be some correlation as well. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Most definitely. So yes, last week we were officially certified as a great place to work, which is great news and a huge relief for me. It's something that I've wanted to do for many years, but haven't quite been brave enough. But yes, we went through the 3-week survey process a couple of weeks ago and heard the great news last week. So we've just announced that to all of our co-workers. And I truly hope everyone feels as proud as I do, because, the culture, the space, what we create, it's not me, it's not the leadership team, it's every employee in our business that kind of creates that space. So everybody should be really, really proud of that achievement.
There's definitely over the last few weeks, you've really felt the buzz since we were able to announce that. I think that's really, really positive. Just coming back to the kind of topic, if other businesses are considering implementing, organisational space changes, hybrid working changes, what sort of advice might you give them from your experience that we've had so far?
Yeah. So I think what you can't fail to recognise is it's a massive change management exercise. You are changing the way people work day to day, how they spend a significant amount of their time. So some of the things that I would highlight that we have been through is, even prior to our new spaces, we implemented hybrid working training for all of our managers, so that people could really understand that this wasn't about doing what you used to do, but just doing it 40% of the time in the office. It was actually, you need to consider how to do that and what is the purpose of the office, what activities you come into the office to do, how you really bring teams together. It's a massive exercise for managers to get their head around working in a way that they may not have worked ever before in kind of 20, 30 years of a career potentially. So training on the whole kind of hybrid working, I think, is key. And then what I would equally say, still relating to training, so the 2 days prior to us opening these new offices, with all of the new technology, we acknowledge that people might be quite fearful of that technology. They're going to come into a room, they're going to turn up and they're going to think, God, I've got a call in 5 minutes' time. I can't work out, I can't get them up. And then they just go back to their desk, log on their Zoom, and are basically doing what they've done from home because that's what they're comfortable with. So we brought everybody around the building pre-opening and trained them with the help of the Maverick team, trained them all on all of the technology so that when they came, all of the managers could help their teams in understanding that and really utilise the space. So I think that's critically important, is two of the things that I would highlight. And leadership needs to role model it.
Yeah, and I think, just if we reflect on it from a kind of not being involved in the original process, I think the adoption's been really good. You see every single space, every single meeting room, it's being used. The availability piece is fantastic. You can see the meeting rooms are available. But I think whether it's a huddle space, a casual space, every single area in this building is well utilised. And I think that's testament to the kind of research and thought we put into the building before we started.
I was totally blown away the first time I went into a meeting room, and the meeting room knew I was there.
Yeah.
I literally opened my laptop and it was like, you're here and the meeting is here. And I was like, how does that work? So no, it's brilliant.
Thank you very much, Jodie. Honestly, we could talk about this for ages, but it's because I know it's something we're both massively passionate about. I really appreciate you coming in today to talk to us about it, and just give us some of your thoughts and feelings on how it's all gone, which are, again, as an employee, I would say fantastically. If anyone out there would like to come in and experience a demo, see all the technology working yourself, or even just have a sort of look around the building, you're very, very welcome. I'd urge you to get in contact with maverick@tdsynex.com. We'll put the link in the chat so everyone's aware. And, one of the team will take you around and show you how the building works. All that remains for me from there, though, is to thank our sponsors for today. So Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Microsoft Surface Hub, Neat, Logitech, Lenovo, Crestron and EPOS. Again, thank you, Jodie, for joining us. And of course, thanks to everyone out there for watching. Really appreciate you joining us. Watch out again for the next LinkedIn Live.